Hi and welcome back. So since the war on cancer began in the early 1970s, science has made giant strides in understanding and treating the disease. However, the war is far from over. Some may say that when you look at the rising cancer rates, cancer is actually staging a very strong counterattack. Cancer remains a deadly age-related disease. Its advanced stages are, unfortunately, still mostly untreatable. And the response to therapies is not universally positive, and those therapies themselves can also be harmful as well as accelerating aging. The upshot is clear: it's better not to get cancer at all. And there are links in the description below to the studies and articles I used to put this presentation together. Previous studies have shown that a variety of lifestyle factors affect your chance of getting cancer. Now, smoking is the most obvious case, but other behaviours such as diet can also affect your fate. Processed meat, for example, is recognised by the World Health Organization as being carcinogenic. Bad dietary choices can lead to numerous problems associated with cancer, such as type 2 diabetes, which has been shown to substantially increase your risk of getting some forms of cancer. This new review summarises the research into the relationships of 3 popular diets with the disease of cancer. The authors of this latest paper reviewed studies on the Mediterranean diet, the ketogenic diet, and plant-based diets. Of the 23 papers included in the review, 15 were related to the Mediterranean diet, 4 to keto diets, and 4 to plant-based diets. Let's first look at breast cancer studies. One study followed 114 women with breast cancer. High adherence to the Mediterranean diet was linked to smaller tumour size, absence of nodular metastasis, and recurrence-free survival. That said, the review does not report how the original study treated possible confounding variables. Another study followed a cohort of around 10,000 women and found that occurrence of breast cancer was significantly lower in those with high adherence to, again, the Mediterranean diet. That when compared to those who followed a Western diet that's high in processed meats, fast foods, and being lower in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and also fish. Another breast cancer study followed 1,017 people that had a control cohort. This study found that participants who followed a Mediterranean diet for 5 years prior to the diagnosis were less prone to getting breast cancer. And on average, they had smaller tumour sizes too. The researchers concluded that shifting to a Mediterranean diet could be protective against the development and the progression of breast cancer. The authors mentioned 2 connected keto diet studies too by the same team, in which keto diets were initiated in women with breast cancer. The treatment led to a significant decrease in tumour size and in overall survival rates when compared to a control group. It also improved their markers of inflammation. 2 of the studies evaluated the impact of plant-based diets on breast cancer. One study with 412 patients and 456 in the control group found that adherence to a healthy plant-based diet dependently and highly significantly decreased the risk of developing the disease. Again, I think here the key point is healthy, meaning no ultra-processed foods. Another study with an even larger cohort reached similar conclusions. Here also, they mentioned unhealthy plant-based diets were associated with a considerably higher risk. So no surprise that following a diet high in ultra-processed foods increases your risk. So let's now turn to gastric and colorectal cancer. Overall, the Mediterranean diet was associated with a lower risk of gastric and colorectal cancer. One study found a 68% reduction in the chance of developing gastric cancer for people who adhered to a well-balanced and strict Mediterranean diet. One study concluded that keto had no effect at all on gastric cancer risk. However, according to another interventional study, keto diets as a treatment in addition to chemotherapy resulted in longer survival periods, although it did not result in higher overall survival rates. A large study of 1,404 survivors of colorectal cancer showed that plant-based diets cause a significant reduction in mortality 7 years into remission. As with some of the other studies, the quality of the plant-based diet was deemed to be very important indeed, although this particular study did not quite reach statistical significance. The review didn't mention any other cancers in relation to the Mediterranean diet, with the exception of a single study of the plant-based diet in people with hepatocellular carcinoma. This large longitudinal study of 89,000 women and 48,000 men with a 32-year follow-up showed reduced risk for those who had adhered to a plant-based diet. Substituting carbohydrates and refined grains for plant fats reduced that risk even more. One study of 4,000 plus current or recent smokers, of whom 178 developed lung cancer, found that high consumption of vegetables, fruits, olive oil and fish were associated with a significantly lower risk of getting the disease. In a study of 690 people and a control group of 665, high adherence to a Mediterranean diet reduced the risk of bladder cancer development by 35%. This when compared to the low adherence group. Finally, in a study of thyroid cancer patients, low adherence to the Mediterranean diet was associated with more thyroid nodules and higher malignancy. I think a few things that need to be considered here when looking at these studies is that they are all epidemiological, in that the cohorts will have self-reported all the data on their diets, meaning they could have lied and or had poor recollection of the actual quality of the diet throughout the period of the study. Nothing here has changed my mind or my belief that it doesn't really matter what you eat, as long as it's whole food, which can include meat and fish. And remember, no matter what the vegans tell you, the Mediterranean diet does include fish and meat, as well as alcohol. Those studies that did report on it stated that those diets that were poor in quality, meaning they included ultra-processed foods, did see poorer outcomes. I still think a whole food diet, whether that be carnivore at one end or vegan at the other, will always be healthier in the long run than a diet that includes ultra-processed foods. Let me know what you think in the comment section below.